Hi everyone, hope you are feeling positive and healthy. Please subscribe with all bell notifications if you haven't already, and please don't hesitate to leave your valuable feedback and advice below. Thank you very much. Let's jump into the stories. Forgave my 34, 5F, fiance, 36, for a short burst of cheating, 18 years old female, 2 years ago, but got more details and now WTF do I do with this frown? The whole long story up front, a one-paragraph DLDR at the bottom. My 34 years old female, fiance, 36 years old male, and I have been together for 10 years. He's in publishing and works as an adjunct teaching intro to history at a uni where we lived. The past event occurred in another state. I'm a dentist. We live together, have a good time together, make a good team and have a lot of compatible weirdnesses. We've been together a third of our lives. Early in the relationship it was rocky. We were young. He was emotionally cold and distant, didn't want to commit, wouldn't discuss it, and when I moved cross-country for orthodontics training, he said he didn't know if he wanted to join me or if he could ever live with me. I moved. I had a short fling with a guy until one day my now fiancé said he wanted to move to be with me, so I broke off the short-lived fling, committed to making it work with the man who is my now fiancé. I should have not continued to visit and search for commitment, broken it off. And I took full responsibility and came clean with details so he knew about the fling prior to moving, treated me like the shamed woman of Babylon for a good few years, got a lot of comments about how a lot of the activities I liked seemed too sexual, partner dancing, like almost anything really, how men were only interested in me for sex, monitored a lot of what I did, snooped and basically I mea culpa'd for years. It was lousy, but it's the past, but fast forward and we worked a lot out. It wasn't all perfect. But we were committed to being together even when things were hard and there was a lot of communication differences due to upbringing. Once committed to each other, I never did anything without his consent. We would hook up with other couples sometimes. We're both fine with that, so plenty of opportunity for fully out in the open variety. No secrets allowed. About 2 years ago a friend of ours ran into a girl, 18 years old female, at a regularly scheduled meetup party for the kink community. Long story short, my friend found out that the girl had come to that party recently with my fiancé who wasn't there that night. The girl told my friend that she had been a student in my fiancé's class the school year before, that she was under the impression he lived with his ex-girlfriend, and that they had broken up. My friend told the girl that wasn't true and the girl asked why he would lie about it, but didn't seem bothered. She then excused herself and went over to a man my friend didn't know with whom she was very affectionate. She didn't seem bothered by the information or upset. My fiancé and I had been having some problems communicating and had been to therapy shortly before this happened. I confronted him. He admitted that he had hooked up with this girl after she left his class, that he had told her about one of the parties. She went, and they hooked up there, then with her after and on and off for a few months after. But it had already been broken off and he was very sorry and it was incredibly stupid. He told me that she seemed very mature, that she was 18. That she had a lot of experience and that they just talked about history books and sometimes he talked to her about his life and our relationship. I was in absolute shock. I didn't feel anything. Just baffled. I had really zero clues that there was anything fishy going on, not even a small nagging feeling. I saw a therapist. I decided not to leave. It was a pretty terrible time for me. Friends suggested I reach out to her. But I felt so small and pathetic asking an 18-year-old to give me details about my boyfriend when I'm almost twice her age. I didn't want to snoop because I remember how awful that felt. I didn't want to make ultimatums that's backfired in the past. I just wanted answers. Since then we have moved forward, though I never felt like I got all the details. He insisted he was incredibly stupid. He felt like our lives were on hold and we were spinning our wheels. It didn't mean anything. He just wanted to do it and that was so dumb. It was meaningless and he shouldn't have done it. Recently, 2 years later, we have been talking about having a child. I really want to. It has brought back feelings about what happened. Hard, even though there have been no other indiscretions and I have had trust since we moved on. But details that were missing started to bother me and timelines didn't make sense. But I forget details when I get emotional, so I admitted I was embarrassed. But I needed clarification on the semester she was in his class. Because something felt strange and I thought it was me stressing and needed help putting the thought away. I wanted to confirm her age as I'd found her real birthday. I had to know it was legal even if it was disgusting. He told me he couldn't remember, would look it up, then didn't. I asked like 3 times, and every time oh I'll have to look. I didn't push. I wanted him to give me the information. I asked nicely. I asked upset. Long story short, in a therapy session, we still go once a month. It's helped us with our very different communication styles a lot. He finally answered my questions. I learned that they hooked up before the party, that they were seeing each other over the course of 6 months, about 15 to 30 times, he said 30, then 20, then maybe closer to 15, not once a week, maybe once every other. That he lied about where he was going when he saw her. I never asked for more info than out with friends because why would I? We never interrogate, go have fun, and that he even slept over a handful of times, that one hurt. Now I feel like I forgave a short stupid ego-boosting midlife crisis fling. But what really happened was a relationship. I guess there's not that much more information, maybe it's not really that different, but I feel gutted again. He bristles and says it was not a relationship, that it was meaningless, that he only loves me, that he wasn't thinking about how it would hurt me, he was just feeling frustrated with life and did something stupid, that it was nothing and stupid and wrong. He said that was the core truth, and he told me that core truth, even if the details weren't 100% true, and that he doesn't want to be litigating this forever, because the core truth was always true. He admitted to being evasive and being sorry for it. Of note, when I first found out about her I was upset, cried, asked how he could have discussed our relationship at all with her. 3 months later I found out they still traded emails, which he said he wouldn't do if I told him not to, but it was just chat about books and there was no more sex. I told him not to, he said he stopped. I asked once to see emails, but they were all deleted. He said that all he wants in the world is to move forward and have a family with me. There have been no new indiscretions, 100% believe. To know I shouldn't be surprised that he was afraid to tell me the full truth back when I first found out because he said he knew it would upset me. I went digging. He admitted to being evasive out of fear of hurting me, but I feel lied to a second time. We have a therapist who wants to focus on moving forward because we want to, and feels like he was feeling a lot of shame, which is why he didn't want to admit all details. I feel dumb. I wanted the opportunity to forgive and move forward, but I forgave something that happened longer than I thought. He still denies it was a relationship. I feel gaslit. And if it didn't mean anything, how is that possible? He also says he doesn't remember who broke it off and it stopped before I found out. Now what the hell do I do with this? It was 2 years ago. The only difference is it lasted longer than I thought and some details were left out. Our therapist asked if I would have been as upset if she had been 30, and honestly, no. The age difference, even if she aggressively pursued him and seemed fully formed and had a lot of experience as he said, grosses me out. She did have a lot of experience, but A, who cares? B, none of my business at all or relevant, but I was able to put it aside as wildly stupid midlife crisis territory. Though he's been attracted to women older than me, younger, etc., so it's not a theme. I thought I moved on. Have I just wasted 2 years? Is this really new information or am I just opening up old wounds? TLDR, 2 years ago my fiance had a 6-month sexual relationship with an 18F who had been a student in his class, side gig, the semester before and was no longer a student at the time. He was cagey about the details, insisted it was stupid, he wasn't thinking, it was meaningless, and he felt like he was spinning his wheels in life and he regretted it deeply. He was evasive about details that I recently got. The relationship was longer than I thought, started differently, but otherwise the information was the same. He says he told me the core truths, that it didn't matter to him, wasn't a relationship, no love, etc., even if he was evasive on the details because he didn't want to hurt me more. Now I feel like I'm back to 2 years ago even though we had tried to move past it. Now what the F? He was frustrated, and did something stupid 30 times? It sounds like he's never been about you. You're sacrificing personal growth and happiness on someone who doesn't give a crap about yours. Time to move on, like yesterday. My 25 years old female boyfriend, 26 years old male, of 10 months is best friends with his ex, 20s F. She refuses to meet me and it's getting weird. I started dating my boyfriend, Jeff, 10 months ago. This relationship has been amazing so far and I definitely see a future with him. There's just one problem. He has a weird relationship with his ex that's starting to make me really uncomfortable and suspicious. When we started dating, he often talked about his best friend, Jenna, who he also owns a business with. He made it pretty clear that she was an important person to him. I knew they had spent vacations together and he mentioned hanging out with her parents a few times, too. A few weeks after I met him, I creeped through all his pictures on Facebook, because who doesn't do that with someone they just started dating? And saw a bunch of very couple-y pictures of him and Jenna. I also found her Instagram and looked through it, and it's father-in-law LED with pictures of Jeff. A bunch of them had the hashtag relationship goals and other similar things. So in this way, I figured out that they had dated. I kept waiting for him to tell me that himself, but he never did. About 2 months after we started dating, I straight up asked him if he had dated her. and he admitted it. He said that they had met in school and had similar ideals and ambitions. They dated for 9 months and broke up a year and a half ago. I asked him why they'd broken up, and he said their relationship was awful and they worked much better as friends. They started their business after they broke up and things have, apparently, been going well between them since then. I started to get kind of suspicious about her, though, when time passed and I still hadn't met her. I met his friends and family pretty soon after we started dating, but I didn't meet Jenna. I went to numerous social events that I'd expect her to be at, but she was never there. There were a number of occasions when our paths almost crossed and I really thought I was going to meet her, but I never did. For example, I went to their office a few times to meet Jeff after work, and Jenna was already gone. Or sometimes I'd come to meet him and he'd come outside to meet me so I wouldn't have to go inside. Things started to get really weird about 3 months ago. Jeff and Jenna were having an open house night one evening. Jeff came over to my place after work and we had a few hours to kill before it was time to go, so we went out for dinner and then walked to the office. I was kind of expecting that I'd come in and help them set up, but when we were a block away, he started asking me if I had lots of work to do and saying there was a really nice coffee shop nearby. He actually walked me to the coffee shop and sat me down, then left to go get ready with Jenna. He told me to come to the office in an hour and a half. About half an hour before I left for the office, I texted Jeff and said I hoped everything was going well and asked if there was anything I could do. He replied and said, "Something's come up for Jenna and she can't be here tonight." I was getting really suspicious at this point. I went to the office half an hour later and sure enough, Jenna wasn't there. People kept asking about her all night and Jeff told them she'd had a family emergency. When we walked back to the car later that night, he told me what happened. While he and Jenna were getting ready, she had had a panic attack and said she was scared to meet me. She said she wouldn't be able to handle it and either had to leave, or he had to tell me not to come. He told her to leave, so she did. Since then, a couple more weird things have happened, and I still haven't met Jenna. Once, when I was hanging out with Jeff, we went to the office so he could grab something. When we were almost there, he looked at his phone and said, "Jenna's still there. Let's just go for a walk." So we walked around the block for half an hour and then came back when she was gone. After that happened, I told Jeff I felt really uncomfortable with the situation. I could respect that they were friends who had dated, but the way she was acting about me was very suspicious. He apologized and said he had actually been really mad at her, but wasn't sure what to do. He also told me a couple other weird stories about things she'd done. He went to a party a few weeks ago, I didn't go, and his phone had died that night. When he got home and charged his phone, it was full of texts from Jenna saying she was outside in her car and asking if I was there or not. She actually never even ended up going to the party, simply because she didn't know if I was there or not. Now here's the kicker. Jeff and Jenna are currently on a 2-week-long camping trip. They've been planning this trip since before I met him, but considering the way she's behaved, I feel very uncomfortable about him being on this trip. I just looked at her Instagram and she's posted 5 new pictures of him. As awesome as Jeff is, I'm really fed up with this and I'm seriously considering breaking things off when he gets back. Am I being unreasonable? TLDR, my boyfriend is best friends/business partners with his ex. She has done a number of weird things to avoid meeting me and I'm so sick of it that I'm considering breaking up with him. You're not being unreasonable at all, and I can understand why you feel so upset about the whole situation. If I were you, I'd be asking Jeff a few questions. Does he know the root issue of why she doesn't want to meet you? Is she like this with anyone else? Explain to him that the situation is upsetting you and that you aren't comfortable with him going on a 2-week vacation with her. She is, after all, his ex-girlfriend and the whole thing strikes me as a little strange. Maybe you could talk about meeting Jenna with Jeff present in a quieter, mutual place like a cafe or a restaurant. If Jeff was my boyfriend I'd be looking for answers. Best of luck to you and please post an update. Wow, I definitely find it weird that for a relationship that ended 18 months ago she's still so hung up on not meeting the new GF. Maybe she is struggling with anxiety, or maybe she is hiding something. Still in love with your BF, still flirting with him. Worse. I think trusting your gut in a situation like this is important. You raise a lot of flags. Why should your BF be protecting her by making you walk around the block for 30 minutes or sitting in a cafe for 90? It makes no sense, unless he cares more about her feelings/her getting hurt. He's willing to inconvenience you to accommodate some frankly extreme reactions on Jenna's part. It's to you how to proceed. But I don't think considering a breakup is unreasonable in this situation. You could also try a firm and honest convo with Jeff about WTF is going on, if you think he will be open to it. P.S. The campaign trip? Oh no, I wouldn't be okay with that. Not after her shady maneuvering to avoid you. Update. My 25 years old female, boyfriend, 26 years old male, of 10 months is best friends with his ex, 20s, F. She refuses to meet me and it's getting weird. Link to OP, link 1 in description. I wrote my previous post over a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. I wanted to give everyone an update, since the advice on this sub was really helpful at the time. For a few months after I wrote my OP, nothing much happened. Jeff and I continued dating, and he continued being friends/partners with Jenna. I never met her, but everything else in our relationship seemed to be going so well that I decided I'd try to deal with it. Things got really hard, however, when I had to take a work contract 12 hours away from home for 3 months. I hardly saw Jeff the whole time, and I looked at Jenna's Instagram almost every day to see if she'd posted more photos of them together. More often than not, she had. Since I wasn't physically present, I felt like Jenna was his real girlfriend. I felt completely worthless and constantly stressed out, knowing my boyfriend was spending all his time with another woman who I already had suspicions about. While I was away for work, I decided to break up with Jeff. I broke up with as soon as I came back, and I made it very clear that his relationship with Jenna was intolerable for me. I told him he was going to have a hard time dating anyone who wasn't her as long as she was still in his life. He kept saying he didn't understand why it was such a problem. He told me he couldn't control her behavior, but he promised me he hadn't cheated on me. I explained to him that by allowing their friendship to continue, he was condoning her behavior. I told him I didn't really even care if he'd physically cheated or not, since he'd already shown disrespect for me and our relationship. I didn't speak to him for a few months and I went on with my life. I took another contract out of town and even considered moving permanently to another city. One night, though, Jeff called me and apologized. He said he had been thinking about our relationship a lot and realized he had been in the wrong. He said his relationship with Jenna was beginning to feel toxic to him, and he'd made arrangements to dissolve their business partnership. After that, I decided to meet up with him, not necessarily give him another chance, and discuss the situation further. When we met up, he promised to stop talking to Jenna and unfollowed her on all social media. As of now, he has not spoken to her in 6 months, and we've gotten back together. We actually ran into her at a concert a few weeks ago, and they didn't even say hi to each other. I feel much more respected and confident in my relationship now. TLDR, I broke up with my boyfriend. He ended his friendship/partnership with his ex and we have gotten back together. Wow, good for both of you that the communication ended up working and you're happy together now. Congrats and hope it works out. Hey OP, not to stir the pot, but it really sounds like your boyfriend was dating Jenna and they broke up. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.